blockchain, less trust, more truth, AI, more trust, less truth.
Yeah, we had an interesting discussion, Gav and I, over dinner in Brussels, where I talked with him a lot about AI. And afterwards, he actually posted this on Twitter and said, no, AI needs more trust and is the complete opposite of Web3. That's why combining both of these technologies, it's so interesting, because what Web3 can provide is to decentralize or open source a lot of these models that agents are trained on. And we can also actually verify that this agent has executed this task and if it's done right or wrong. The landscape is very active. A lot of new projects are coming in. This is a very exciting time.
Hey, Sohail here. Thanks for tuning in. Real quick before we begin, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned something, please consider to follow or subscribe or share this episode. That helps us out a lot. It helps us to reach more people and to spread quality education across the space about crypto and Web3. Also, if you're part of a crypto project or represent one and you would like to come on the show or do sponsoring, please get in touch with us. And lastly, everything we talk about today is for educational purposes and no financial advice. Enjoy the show. All right, thank you for tuning into another episode of the TEACHMEDEFI podcast. Today will be a bit different. We're still talking about crypto, but more the intersection with AI as well. So just a small intro on that. So as we all know, AI has been the fascinating new thing in tech. Got the large language models, obviously ChatGPT leading the charge. With the company OpenAI being valued, I believe, at $80 billion a few months ago. But as these models become more ingrained in our lives, their centralization creates significant concerns around there being a single point of failure, privacy breaches, biased outputs, monopolization, scalability. So this brings us to today's discussion. Can decentralization actually reshape the landscape of artificial intelligence? Does the age of AI necessitate a shift towards Web3 technologies to, for example, safeguard transparency and authenticity? And how can blockchain and decentralization help to create a future where AI is not only powerful, but also trustworthy? In other words, can decentralized AI change everything? And for that, today we got Zoé here, VP and partner at Phala. Hey, Zoé, thank you for coming on the show.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Sohail. Very nice to be here today.
Good to have you. Good to have you. We were talking German off camera there, but we'll keep it in English now for the audience. Yeah, I mean, let's chat about, first of all, because people who are familiar with Polkadot have probably seen you around. You have a long-standing history within Polkadot. You do a lot of public speaking, have moderated loads of crypto panels and events. Funnily, you actually moderated the stage recently where I moderated my first panel at a crypto event. You told me I did okay. I don't know if that's true, but I take it.
I said you did very well. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So that was fun, anyways. And yeah, just tell me a bit about your personal journey and sort of like what drives your passion towards this intersection of crypto and AI.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you mentioned it already. Like my crypto history started within the Polkadot ecosystem. I would call myself like a Polkadot native, which started 5 years ago while I lived in San Francisco. And what drew me back then to Polkadot is really the innovation that Gav described in the white paper, how it differentiates from, of course, Ethereum as the co-founder of Ethereum, but also from the overall Bitcoin landscape, right? What we had back then in crypto. And back then, I mean, 5 years ago, it was all pre mainnet launch. And it was so exciting for me to step into the Polkadot ecosystem and say, hey guys, this is such a cool technology. Let's talk about this more, right? We need to talk about what we are building. It's so complex. And we need to start to break this down. So back then, I did my second master's in cybersecurity. I already studied international business, also in Boston, and I had like a good experience how to break these complex technologies down. And I was very motivated to use this kind of knowledge to educate, let's say, the more basic audience on what Polkadot is actually doing. So I started to do a lot of similar, like you now, podcasts and online events with the main builders behind Polkadot. Back then, also Jutta Steiner, who was the CEO of Parity, a lot of people that actually built the blockchain itself. And through this, I became also head ambassador of Polkadot. Now, recently got re-elected as head ambassador at the new on-chain collective, a very cool,
Hmm.
unique mechanism on Polkadot to actually create collectives and track their activities on chain. And since 3.5 years, I also work with Phala Network, the confidential compute layer on top of Polkadot. We call it an AI co-processor, where we provide confidential compute specifically for AI use cases. And to conclude this, it's really for me the passion of the security with my cybersecurity background, but also about the growth. How can we make or create more use cases and really bring this unique technology to the mass, where I believe AI is a very good use case at the moment. But also thinking of how can we make all of this more secure. And Polkadot is, of course, in my eyes, the most secure layer zero or layer one, how we want to call it. And this is what Phala Network also leverages.
Hmm, that's awesome. Yeah, I also noticed you spent a lot of time abroad, right? I was just curious before we dive into the technicalities of this topic. How has your time abroad sort of shaped you, right? And maybe also contributed to your decision to pursue a career in blockchain and Web3? Because I know from my own experience, spending time abroad, it can make you more open to new challenges, more willing to take risks, make you more confident. So I'm interested in how that time was for you and how it fits into your career path.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I did half of part time of my bachelor's back then already in China, in Shanghai at Fudan Dashua, where I was already very drawn to the Asian culture. And back then I said, okay, now I definitely need to move to the States to see like the complete overview of doing business in around the globe, because me coming from Berlin in Europe, I wanted to see like all kind of areas where and how to do business with different people from different cultures.
Mm,
And my first master that I did in Boston in international business really taught me how to be aware of a lot of new technologies, right? We discussed AI back then already, cryptocurrency and blockchain. And then it was very clear for me, because was a path for me from a management perspective, where I said, okay, technology is the space I want to be in. I'm not like a hardcore engineer, but I want to evolve and like be able to manage technologies and talk also with people from different backgrounds. So I
mm,
moved to Silicon Valley, where I also spent some time at Google and different crypto startups to really get an overview. And this is actually where blockchain was like the eye opener for me in the technology area, to say this is what changes the world. And I got so passionate about it, which is still here every day. I'm waking up and say, hey, this is an area where I love to work in, because it is a revolution in the internet. And I know I will do and provide and contribute to the change, a revolution in our age. So yeah, definitely the global experience helped me, first of all, to work with different people or cultures within the team,
mm,
which we have in crypto everywhere. And also, of course, the ability to already be open to travel a lot to the different countries for the
mm,
conferences, which I also love. I enjoy to be on stage and to speak and travel to these countries, which is not super easy and doesn't is always not as glamorous as it sounds, because it is a lot of time management and also different time zones that impact you. However, it helped me a lot to be able to navigate through the crypto or Web3 landscape, because it is super international and global.
mm. Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's true. There's a lot of travel involved. Crypto, decentralized tech, but it's also decentralized on a social layer. So people are all over the world. Um, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can also fly yourself to places.
Yes, I do. Yes, I have a private pilot license, which I did uh, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hobby. It's not a profession directly. I grew up like in a pilot's family. So my dad has some planes and he flies a lot, and my brother is a pilot as well. So it's something that keeps me very or challenges me outside of the day-to-day job.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Uh, would be scary to me, but that's cool. Cool that you do this. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the landscape of AI. Like how would you describe the current landscape of like Web3 AI or crypto and AI? Because often in Web3, as you know, the shiny new thing can result in hype and a lot of vaporware, right? So I think it's a tricky space to navigate. I know there's different segments. There's like GPU rental or decentralized inference, even decentralized training. So just like, how would you describe the current landscape in your view?
Yeah, you said it right. It's a new, let's say, narrative, or I mean a new technology that merges with crypto or Web3. Overall, I would say it's very difficult to navigate through it because,
Mm.
especially beginning of this year, a lot of new startups just arose and were there and popped up and say, "Wow, we are building AI now," right?
Yeah.
It's also a bit chaotic, I would say, because we still have to navigate through, okay, which is the core technology, what kind of teams will stay and really provide value to this
Mm.
intersection from the AI space to the crypto space. And also, we need to advance within the Web3, the decentralization space. What kind of security technologies does AI actually need or we can provide, right? So, overall, we are what we always say in crypto, super early on that stage. It started, I would say, end of last year. My first conference, beginning of this year in East Denver, was super exciting because I moderated several panel discussions where it
Mm.
was the first time for me moderating and having people outside the crypto space joining the panel discussion, right? Who were AI experts. But
Mm.
they grew up in AI and they don't really have all the knowledge that we have within tokenomics and decentralization and so on. And it was super challenging for me also to moderate this panel, but really interesting to bring these two sides and these two people together, or these two characters of people into one room, to then discuss how we can help AI with blockchain technology and what AI can actually do to blockchain technology as well. So since then, we just recently met, as you said, at ECC.
Mhm.
4 months later, I think the amount of projects has doubled. Yeah, the side
Mm.
events of discussing AI in Web3 has also tripled. So as we know, it moves super fast. However, at the moment, we really need to see who are the main players that are maybe long-standing in AI, and what
Mm.
kind of technologies from the Web3 space can actually navigate through this. So you mentioned some of these different layers in AI, right? We have like the models, we have the experts that build actually agents, which
Mhm.
also often come from the AI space. And we also have the infrastructure, the compute providers or the verifiable compute, where Phala fits in.
Mm.
And the Phala is around since 2018. However, we rebranded mid of last year towards a coprocessor, which is a specific technology where you have most of the programs running off chain and verified through the blockchain. And we didn't change our technology over the last years. And we go into these details later on as well. However, we found really this is the technology that can enable AI into Web3, because we can provide verification, and so on, some other details. So yeah, overall, it's really very loud. The landscape is very active. A lot of new projects are coming in. However, we already see the different layers, right, that are already, let's say, satisfied by a lot of technologies. And now we are trying to see, okay, what actually makes sense to connect, and how can we also enable this like multi-agent ecosystem, right, where
Mm.
agents can communicate with each other, where the models are decentralized, and so on. So this is from a high level view. I would
Mm.
say this is a very exciting part or exciting time to be in, because you get to know a lot of the different technologies, and it's also a big learning curve for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I had it felt similar to me in some ways. When the whole metaverse thing became a buzzword. I think Facebook changed its name, and suddenly all these coins kept shooting up in price, and everyone was talking about the metaverse or pivoting to it. And I feel like we had that in crypto then as well, like you said, this influx of projects, and it gets tricky to understand, okay, which one is actually like a meme, kind of just like riding the wave, right? And which projects are fundamentally strong and building interesting use cases. So yeah, tricky. Let's see if we can dive into that more in this episode. So you already mentioned Phala a bit. Perhaps a quick deep dive onto something you said. You mentioned agents, right? So that
Yep.
might confuse some viewers. Like, so when we talk about agents, is that when AI gets to do things itself? For example, on blockchain, like what
Yep.
could AI agents look like?
Yeah, yeah, there are different type of AI agents, but as you said, AI agents are like the programs that execute on their own, right?
Mm,
Based on a specific model that they are trained on, which can be an open source model or closed source model or model that's trained like via OpenAI by all of us using the technology, or you train an agent on a very specific model, which is then also closed or open source. And then this agent does activities or executes specific tasks based on the input that it gets.
mm,
And these agents normally run in the normal AI space, run off chain, right? And the tricky part here is, and most of these models that they are trained on are also closed source. So actually, the AI or AI technology is complete opposite of Web3, because in AI you need
mm,
to trust, right? You don't know what the agent is trained on, and what the agent actually executes, or you cannot verify.
mm,
And Web3 is the complete opposite. And that's why combining both of these technologies, it's so
mm,
interesting, because what Web3 can provide is to decentralize or open source a lot of these models that agents are trained on. And we can also actually verify that this agent has executed this task, and if it's done
mm.
right or wrong, right? So this is from the tech stack, how the agents and the models work together. And why agents or AI actually need Web3 is because most of this runs off chain, closed source in areas and on machines that we can't verify.
Right, super interesting. And I think this point you mentioned, I think I also saw that from Gavin Wood. I think he also posted about it, and I think it was in his talk at in Brussels when we were at Polkadot Decoded. I think basically, like you said, sort of like a blockchain, less trust, more truth; AI, more trust, less truth. Right?
Yeah, we had a interesting discussion, Gav and I, over dinner in Brussels, where I talked with him a lot about AI. And afterwards, he actually posted this on Twitter and said, "No,
Ah,
AI needs more trust, and it's the complete opposite of Web3." But he always gets very philosophical, which is great, right? The underlying problem. And when we talk about from Phala perspective or Polkadot, we need to see, okay, what technologies do we have, and how can we enhance them, but also optimize them, right? Make, of course, AI more decentralized and build products that the users can use, right?
mm,
So I think it will take us many more years to really decentralize AI in a complete low level way. However, we are already on a good way through the technology that Phala provides, where we can verify specific compute executions, and of course need to see what is the best use case, so the end user can actually use what we are
mm.
creating. And I think this is always how I try to think and pitch and open these discussions, right? Because if we forget the end user experience and the end user or the usability of our product, we will never get somewhere. So we need to always balance this out.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because in the end, it has to be a useful product still. If you can't just decentralize for its own sake, like let's say the product becomes much worse than the centralized version, like realistically,
Yeah.
people probably won't use it. If it's much slower on decentralized infrastructure, generating the responses of an LLM or something, yeah, that won't really be interesting proposition to users, right? So um, right. So perhaps, I mean, you've mentioned Phala already, and we can also maybe take it first, like from Polkadot's perspective as a layer zero on which Phala builds. So, how do you think Polkadot fits into this whole landscape? And can Polkadot be a player in this kind of like decentralized AI, crypto, and AI space?
Yeah, I would say Polkadot is already a player because we
Mhm.
do have parachains like Phala or other technologies like Origin Trade, like a decentralized knowledge graph, launching on Polkadot or leveraging the substrate framework. So
Mm,
Polkadot is already pretty strong within the AI space. However, we need to do much better in like pushing the AI narrative on top of Polkadot. And the
mhm,
cool thing is why more AI projects can actually leverage Polkadot is first of all via Phala network for the confidential compute, but we also need to understand why Phala is actually using Polkadot, which is overall through the substrate framework as well as the security part that Polkadot provides for the parachains. Of course, parachains will dissolve very soon, right? We go back to core time. However, it's still like the same approach and the technology benefits that projects launching on top of Polkadot can provide. If we think a bit bigger, Polkadot also has like a very good standing or like an opportunity to look more into what kind of hardware AI actually needs, right? And I think this is like a bigger vision to say, hey, how can we leverage the Polkadot network with all the validators or maybe through treasury funding to actually advance and own much more specific hardware? You mentioned the GPU is very important, more important than the CPU part in AI. And what kind of alliance or collectives can we actually build to put much more effort in the research part of AI? This is
mhm,
also a vision that I'm working on, and to see what kind, how can we put all our resources within Polkadot together to advance the underlying AI tech stack, which doesn't is not only on the software side, it also really is heavy on the hardware side, which
mm.
Phala is also doing, pushing forward with the trusted execution environments hardware.
Right. And I think something he mentioned during his talk was, during one of the talks was, so Gavin, I mean, um, I think it was structured around basically something like how to be able to verify humanness, right? Because it'll become more and
Hmm.
more important to be like, okay, this is produced, or this is this actor on the internet, or this is produced by a person, this is a person, versus this is AI, right? Because if we have more and more agents acting by themselves, it would be good to know if that's an agent or a person.
Yeah, depends on where or why we need to know it, right? I think,
Yeah.
of course, it's important to know if that's an agent or a human for specific use cases. But I think in some cases, it's more about how can the agent do it faster and better than the human, right?
Mm,
So it's, of course, in some cases it's interesting who is, if it's like, a person or a technology behind it. But I think for the technology side, we always have to decide, can the technology do it better and faster than the human, with the verification that a human actually has. And
mm,
sometimes we also have these difficulties with people as well, especially in crypto, right? How many scammers or people we have that are anon, that don't want to provide their personality or
yeah.
identity. And in AI, of course, we have this as well, but more on the side, is this agent actually trustworthy and executes what we ask the agent to do? And then,
Mm,
of course, in the use cases like using agent for trading and so on, we really have to train this agent so good because we trust them to work with our money, right, and execute things. So
mm.
I wouldn't completely agree with it's always important that it's a person. More thinking of about how can we use the technology to make the things more efficient and faster than a human, with the verification that we know it's verifiable what the agent is doing.
Right, right. And so, what is Fala doing? Like, how does that work? I know you use trusted execution environments. Perhaps you can give a short explanation what they are for people that don't know, and how you use them to provide what kind of utility.
Yeah, sure. So trusted execution environments, short TEE. I think have a lot of you guys heard lately online. It's a new buzzword, very old traditional technology, I would say. So it's a very traditional technology that has not been used in Web3 overall for long. It's a hardware solution, and it's coming up now because it can be used in different use cases that we will discuss shortly. So trusted execution environments is a specific hardware provided by bigger companies, for example Intel or ARM, and they provide a hardware where you have a secure enclave within this hardware. So trusted execution environments, or TEs, provide confidentiality and security. So this means you have, if you run a program in the or on in this hardware, it is executed in a secure enclave, which means that, for example, if you have a program, right, and you run this in this node, you are not able to access this node. But if I also want to run the same program, I can run the same program that you put in with the same execution. However, I don't know how the program is actually, what the program says, right? If you want to say, hey, build me a great plane, right, and then you put this program on the secure enclave, it will be executed, and then it knows how to build a great plane. Then I want to do the same. I can adjust it a little bit with maybe blue or red tiers, but then I don't know what the original program was. So this is the confidentiality part, right? We always have the same output. If you want to update it or upgrade it, that's possible, but you can never access the original program in the enclave. This is very important because it provides the security, and you cannot tamper anything, right? This is the tamper proof execution on TEs. In addition to this, we can also then verify the confidentiality that the program has been executed as it was initially put on there. So this is where how secure enclaves work. The confidentiality, that it's always executed as it was programmed, and that you cannot tamper or change the program. You can upgrade it, right? You can add to this, but you cannot never change the initial program. And this is super important when we think now about the combination to blockchain. And again, TEEs is like, I would say, even like old school technology because it is so hardware based, and blockchain is about low trust but more truth. And in Web3, we want to put everything on the blockchain and make it transparent. However, Phala has started. I mean, we are around since 2018, and Hang, our co-founder, is also a co-founder of Bitcoin Gold. We have Dr. Shelvin, our head of research, who researches on trusted execution environments and cryptography since a decade. And we said, okay, how cool would it be if we just use trusted execution environments to offload a lot of heavy computation within these secure enclaves, but then send the verification on the blockchain. So we have here a comparison with blockchain verification and the confidentiality off-chain. And why do we put it off-chain? Is to reach kind of Web2 cloud scalability. Yeah, because putting everything on the compute on the blockchain is super slow and super expensive, and of course also transparent. So we want to say, hey, we offload this because of the security and confidentiality, but also to have more scalability to execute things faster because it runs also decentralized. Yeah, Phala has over 30,000 decentralized nodes. However, not as more faster than on the blockchain itself. And maybe to add to this, there are other security mechanisms where you can have this confidentiality on chain, which is like fully homomorphic encryption, FHE. Yeah, you have ZK proofs. Also multi-party computation, MPC, which is actually to verify fully homomorphic encryption. However, these technologies, especially FHE, which is super hyped at the moment as well. There's a lot of money flowing into this technology or cryptography mechanism. It's quite expensive and quite slow because we put all of these mechanisms and verifications on chain. And we at Phala also have an approach called multi-proof service, where we have use cases to actually verify partial executions of ZK proofs or fully homomorphic encryption on trusted execution environments. to offload some of this computation off chain to make it faster and then also a bit cheaper because you don't need to have the whole program verified through FHE. Yeah, a
Mm.
bit complex, but there are also in this landscape is there are a lot of these security mechanisms possible off chain via hardware or on chain. And at the moment on this multi-proof level, it's a very exciting time because we try to see how can we actually combine these technologies. Yeah, we had last year,
Mm.
over the last 3 years, a lot of resistance from the East community about trusted execution environments. To mention GAF as
Okay.
well. GAF was always like trusted execution environments. This is not secure. You have to trust the owner, like the manufacturer. However, it is really cool to combine it to offer TE in parts of the ZK proof or the FHE execution. Yeah, and this is where we
Hmm.
talk with from Phala side with a lot of other yeah companies and teams as well, where we don't see TE as a competition to ZK or FHE, but rather as an enabler to make these use cases or these yeah the program execution a bit faster and cheaper.
Mm. Okay. Wow, there's a lot to break down there. So basically, it's always like kind of this trade-off, right? Like, do you put the compute on chain or off chain? I mean,
Mhm.
you're saying you're putting so you put some computation off chain, but then the trade off is that it tends to be not as decentralized. So what you're doing is using, but it's then more scalable,
Mhm.
right? So what you're doing is to say, okay, we'll put it in this like enclave, like you said, this trusted execution environment, and it might not be as decentralized, but the person cannot tamper with it. So you have some security around that. And then you do the compute off chain, and then include kind of like the verifiability component by putting that on chain,
Yep.
yeah, on the blockchain.
Yeah, this is
Mm.
how you would see.
Okay.
I need to correct something there because this is how you would see the general
Mm-hmm.
TE networks. Fana, however, is pretty decentralized in that sense as well because we have
Mm-hmm.
over 30,000 TE nodes which
Right.
are run by our community.
Mm-hmm.
Some other projects maybe work with two or three big data centers that have like these clusters. We really have like
Mm-hmm.
individual 30,000 nodes which provide over 200,000 virtual CPU in trusted execution
Mm-hmm.
environments because we have built this cloud since 2018, right, or longer. So this is really we call ourselves the biggest TE cloud based on the number of nodes. And we also have other projects like Secret Network or ACES that use trusted execution environments. However, they are maybe not as decentralized, and they also have like a leak within the key management. And what we can do at Phala is to provide it more decentralized, is the amount of nodes, but then also to decentralize the use of Intel SGX hardware is where our tokenomics and our key hierarchy comes in. This goes maybe a bit into detail now, but I just want to lay out, and maybe we can link this later. There's a great paper, and shout out to Andrew Miller now. Andrew Miller is a cryptography professor, also working for Flashbots, who we brainstorm and like work a lot with to improve trusted execution environment security, and also with his team that we can maybe link the paper afterwards to which really explains some of the backlashes of trusted execution environments and compares a lot of different trusted execution environment clouds in Web3. And Phala really stands out because the amount of nodes that we have, the tokenomics that we include with slashing mechanisms, our own P runtime that can verify if this node is a good one or a bad actor. And then on top, we also have a key hierarchy, which is also based on our research paper. So just to throw in some of these words and yeah, these ideas how we really execute and can secure trusted execution environments is a very novel approach at Phala Network.
Mm. Okay, okay. So basically, for example, let me see if I get this right. So if there's a compute job, you wouldn't just send it to like this one person with their trusted execution environment, but you have like 30,000 different
Mm-hmm.
nodes and you can send it to different places,
Yep.
right? And they stake your so we have the crypto economic game again. So basically they stake your they have to hold and buy, so it's a cost, your cryptocurrency, your token, and they stake it and if they misbehave, they do something they should not do, then you slash them, so you take a bit of that stake away, that money away from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's more
Okay.
complexity with like verifying if the program, if how you also get like a level of, let's say, security level, how good your machine is that you bring to the network, which also impacts
Hmm.
then the reward that you receive on the network and so on. So yeah, a bit more complex on its
Right.
side, but I think we can summarize it as you said.
All right, right. And in terms of this computation, like, because this is on CPUs, right?
Yeah.
And we're just, I'm also not technical, so obviously GPUs are the main thing where AI models run. So, like, what kind of things are computed here, and like perhaps you can also give the perspective of the user, as in, like, just to understand what would they be using Phala for, or this sort of off-chain computation.
Yeah. Yeah, so you said it right. Phala is a CPU, TE-based CPU cloud. We do have for AI, the GPU part is much more important. And specifically for the models and the inference, the GPU execution is super important. So also what we are about to launch is a new white paper on trusted execution environments tokenomics for Phala. And we actually enable trusted execution environment verification on GPU now as well. So we are expanding our cloud where we work with other hardware providers and existing clouds, right? We have Aether, IONET, and a lot of big clouds that provide GPU hardware. It's specifically the NVIDIA H100 hardware that we need to enable TE verification. Um, and to actually provide this verification for different levels within the AI tech stack. An agent could run on the CPU cloud. However, the models and all the inference verification needs to run on the GPU side. So what our team now did, the TE verification enable it on GPU, and this is actually where we have to grow, and we are on the way to grow the cloud on that side, because you are a bit limited for the CPU execution or verification in the AI tech stack. Trusted
Mm.
execution environments, I must say, is not easy to just put it on a GPU hardware, right? So our team is really has the experts or the expertise to verify TE on GPU. We did a demo on this with like one specific hardware, and now we are really building up to provide this as a bigger service offering. But it is not as easy as it sounds. Just have a TE, verification on GPU side. So when we are able to
Mm.
announce more partners or partnerships for, like models or agents or LLMs using Phala's TE GPU, I think this is really the breakthrough for the AI tech stack.
That's exciting. And yeah, like the users, what would they do? Like on are you providing a service then to like end users, or is it more developers that will be leveraging Phala?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's developer side mainly. So how a developer can interact with Phala is the agent contract, AI agent contract, which we actually have launched 2 years ago as Fed contract, which came from the name. It's a contract that runs off chain in trusted execution environments, and through this, it's very rich on features, right? Because you can just communicate with this contract that executes also a smart contract via HTTPS request, which is super cool. So we can provide any off-chain information like Web2 APIs via HTTPS request into this contract, and then it executes it also as a smart contract on chain. And this we
Mm.
just rebranded as agent contract because it's the same technology, but it's better into the AI landscape. And what we can do here is really to connect agents that run off chain, are often also written in Python. Our tooling is in TypeScript, but it's very easy to just connect these off-chain models to our agent contract, and then bring tokenomics or the TE verification or anything that you need for on-chain execution into these agents. This is how the from the developer experience. We do have then, of course, you can also use TE verification for the models. This is like the lower level, then agent contract for agent execution. And then on top, we also have a cool user interface actually, which we can show later as well, where we visual, or where we have a user experience to execute these agent contracts in a use case of Twitter accounts. So we build a Twitter account or an agent of your Twitter account and then bring tokenomics to this account. It's similar like Friends. Now I forgot the name.
You mean the
Yeah,
crypto app
yeah.
thing? Um, what was it called again? It was something with
Friendtech,
friend.
yeah,
Yeah,
similar to. So
Friendtech.
if you
Yeah.
guys remember Friendtech is like where you actually can buy shares or keys of a conversation to, or of a chat to talk with someone, and then you also monetize your brand, right? Your knowledge, and this is what we replicated to AI agents. You actually copy or create your Twitter account, and then you are able to sell, or to sell messages so people can interact with you, and you can also trade or sell keys to this agent, or buy agents of Donald Trump, for example, and then make money because people want to interact with this agent. So it's something that we can showcase later on as well, and it's just like a simple use
Mm.
case how you can monetize and bring these tokenomics into agents that normally run off chain. So Phala's vision here is really to connect the Web2 activities for AI, right? Bring them onto our cloud to verify and to bring uh, confidentiality and the verification to it. And then on top, to bring all the interesting tokenomics and benefits that we have in blockchain into these agents.
Gotcha. So you could create an agent and then monetize it, for example,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
with the use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's awesome. So a lot of things you're working on, a lot of moving parts at the moment, clearly. Um, just to zoom out again a bit, obviously, like you said, there's a lot happening in this kind of crypto and AI intersection. Um, what are sort of like the next big trends or things you're seeing within this space?
Yeah, within AI, I'm super interested in DAGI. It's the decentralized artificial general intelligence, which is like I would say the next evolution of DAI. AGI, of course, is already being discussed, but of course, we always love to put the D in front of it. So it's the decentralized AGI, which was
Yeah.
also discussed a lot during ECC recently in Brussels. And what it actually is that we want to really decentralize the whole tech stack. And we have the opportunity through technologies like Phala, where we really bring in the combination of the trusted hardwares to the AI tech stack, because we can start to continuously run these different tech stacks off chain, but verify it, right? And DAGI
Mm.
really means that we have the decentralized LLMs, the training models, the agents, and everything that we need to complete the AI tech stack in a decentralized way, and also have the ability to interact with each other. What can be added to this
Mm.
is that agents, for example, are often hosted off chain, or you can run some agents locally, but they can't interact with each other, right? And I think the multi-agent economy that we envision also, which needs to be also decentralized, is where these agents can interact with each other because they can learn from each other. Or think about also an LLM, open source, of course, where people can contribute to, and it just gets smarter by the overall contribution, even from agent contribution, right? If agents already learn from
Mm.
it, they contribute back to these models to make it overall more powerful. So DAGI from a high level is really something that we push forward, where we need all resources in a tech stack. Is it like the security part from infrastructure, trusted execution environments, maybe also ZK verification, towards then how decentralized and open source these models are, and how these agents are being built and can interact. And that's why we need also the blockchain connection to these agents, right? How can they communicate with each other, so that in the end we have like this landscape where we have really the interaction, the open source or the open model creation, but also the verification underlying. And this is very important because, yeah, at the moment, most of the AI tech stack is centralized, and we are just trying to put something on chain. But this is very long term. But the way to go to really create the intersection of Web3 and AI.
Right. Super important. Good to hear. There's a lot of people working on this. Obviously, there's a tendency to centralize as things become larger and more scalable, and there's monopolies forming a bit in that space already, I would say. So you need kind of like a counter movement for this AI organism. So yeah. Super interesting to hear what you guys are doing. We'll put those links in the show notes for anyone that wants to check them out. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on the show, Zoe. Any last words? Anything you'd like to share?
I think that everyone should really be interested in the intersection of AI and Web3, because I guess all of you out there already using AI on a on a daily basis, right? ChatGPT, OpenAI models, and so on. So just stay curious. Really try to understand how the tech stack works. And I believe the intersection of crypto and AI is something that really pushes both technology areas forward. And happy to see more and more people reaching out maybe to Phala to build on top of our tech stack, and just being curious and bringing content out around these areas. Thank you.
Awesome. Will you be in Berlin, by the way, Zoe? Will I see you at the Web3 Summit?
Yes, good promotion part here. Everyone, Web3
Yeah.
Summit, the long-standing, I would say, blockchain agnostic conference, started in
Yeah.
2018, where a lot of speakers came together, like founders came together, discussing their protocols pre-launch, right? And now we have often so much competition and branding at conferences. So Web3 Summit is really taking it back.
Yeah.
There's no sponsoring. All the people come together to discuss how we can make the Web3 space better. And really getting into the room and talking also about research topics. So I will be there. I'm moderating a panel discussion on AI and about the decentralized tech stack, and looking forward to see you there and a lot of other people.
Awesome. Yeah, lovely. That's a good wrap up. Thank you for coming on the show, Zoe.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sohail.